Hi there, you're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
My name is Tom. And my name is Adam.
And with our powers combined, we are 4/6 of Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. In case you're wondering, that was AI.
For another week.
That was AI. That wasn't actually Adam. We managed to recreate his presence entirely on the podcast, which is essentially making inappropriate comments and every so often giving us the wind-up signal when he's bored of a story.
Yeah.
So,
but back for another week. Need to fix problems at the branch level. What are some of Adam's other catchphrases?
Doesn't like Halloween.
Doesn't like Halloween. Yeah, that's right. He's a Halloween Grinch. Yeah. Is that all Adam contributes to the show?
I think maybe it is. So
I'm the one who says, why don't we just eat all the rich people? And you both will say, Tom, that's not like, feasible. Like, that's not a realistic goal. I'm like, it is.
So here at Unnatural Selection, we bring you the breadth of all appropriate views in politics, from centre left to extremely far left. Just covering the whole gamut here on Unnatural Selection. 3
white men in their 30s.
Yeah. Well, we are a podcast of white men. We defined the collective noun. That's something we helped to invoke in the lexicon. So it's a podcast about news and stuff, and occasionally ventures into being funny when the news of the day isn't doesn't generally fill one with existential dread. On those occasions, or occasionally humorous, but most of the time it's kind of serious and sad. I suppose we've got somewhat of a bright spot, some potentially good news in that the Israeli government has approved phase 1 of the Gaza ceasefire and hostage deal as propounded by the United States. So that's
a bittersweet approval. Like, it's a bittersweet good news in that the killing stopping.
Which I'm
undeniably good news. That's great.
Big fan of not killing. Yeah.
Fewer people being killed, preferably no more people being killed.
Ideally,
great. 100% on board.
Sure.
The fact that it's tied to let's pave paradise and put up a shopping plex kind of attitude.
A Trump mall,
yeah, is a bit of a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah, and so this was initially a deal that was cooked up by Israel and the United States, and then they eventually, once the Lords of the Universe had finished carving up the universe to their satisfaction, they then punted it over to Hamas to kind of take it or leave it. Hamas kind of it came back from what I read and sort of agreed in principle with the proposal, but had some sort of amendments. It's been announced that it's been accepted on Thursday morning. And basically Trump has given his gold standard guarantee that this means the war is over. So in all likelihood, it means that the war is likely not over. But there's a hostage and prisoner swap going on. That's obviously one of the main objectives from the Israeli sort of side of things. Their campaign was to return the hostages from October 7th.
Which I believe hasn't happened yet. I think they're expecting it slated on Monday.
Yeah, slated to happen tomorrow at time of recording on the 13th of October. So I'll be following that pretty closely, I think, just to see how it all rolls out. Like, phase 1 of the plan is more or less what you'd expect. So you've got cessation of hostilities, hostage and prisoner release, partial Israeli withdrawal. This is something that I found was quite interesting, is that Israel's not committed to do a full pullback from Gaza, but they've committed to pulling back to predetermined lines, is the phrase.
Yeah, like a certain distance, yeah.
So this will allegedly allow, sort of facilitate the return of some displaced Palestinians to their homes, but it's not a full withdrawal from Gaza. There's still going to be an Israeli military presence in Gaza to some degree, and I'm just kind of wondering what that's going to look like in the context of like a longer peace process, if that's just a permanent fixture now, is that just Israel is going to have troops.
The border has moved a little closer.
So it does feel a little bit land. It does feel a little bit like an annexation to some degree. But
and also we call it like Palestinians will be allowed to return to their homes. To which, again, I say,
such
what,
as they
what
are.
home?
Yeah.
Like, great, your pile of rubble, it's still there.
Hey, man, that's yours. And you're still making repayments on it. You're still making repayments on that rubble. The bank never forgets. The last part of phase one is a humanitarian aid surge. So this is the thing that I think is really going to be a good thing to the region, is that there's going to be a substantial increase in humanitarian aid. And allegedly, the United Nations and other multilateral bodies have said hundreds of trucks carrying food, medicine, and fuel are going to be allowed into Gaza on a daily basis.
It's not dropping the random airdrops that sometimes landed in the ocean and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, or on people's heads. So, it's kind of a tacit acknowledgement from the Israelis that, where they were saying, well, there's no starvation happening. We're not constraining aid into Gaza. Like, there is no starvation. Everyone's making it up. Now part of the peace process is we're allowing way more aid in. It's like, okay, so what was that in contrast to compared to what before?
Yeah. So why couldn't they do that earlier?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that point?
No, because it was being used as starvation as a weapon of war, as we've discussed. Yeah. So there's the future phases of this plan is a massive, sort of 20-point plan. And as we sort of talked about last week when it was still being discussed, I don't have confidence that we're going to get to point 20 on the 20-point plan. But, it includes clauses that do with a transitional governance. That's what we talked about. There's going to be a temporary Palestinian committee overseen by an international board, that's sort of board of peace, whatever the fuck Trump was calling it, which is going to include
Trump's
Trump
the chairman, and
Tony
Blair's involved.
Yeah.
And
it's going to be interesting to see how, if that actually does eventuate, how that's actually going to be managed. Obviously, at the insistence of Israel, an important part of this plan is the exclusion of Hamas from any governance in future in the Gaza Strip. So whilst, Hamas is prescribed a terrorist organization, they do control a lot of the levers of government in Gaza with regards to, it's not just like it started as a political party, but now it's evolved.
Yeah, they were elected.
Back in 2006 or something.
Yeah, like 15, 20 years ago.
The last free election, something like that.
Yeah.
So they were elected, and they do sort of form part of the government, but it's also integrated more broad. It's also sort of a group that's more the borders of it aren't like super well defined, and a lot of these people that I quote in Hamas also like constitute bureaucrats and like the facilitation of government services and like the government to a certain extent. Where the government ends and Hamas begins is not entirely clear. It's very deeply embedded into the governance of Gaza, right? So as to how those people are going to be excluded from governance in the future, how that's going to be worked out is not entirely clear to me. And also part of that is the demilitarization and disarmament of the militant wing of Hamas, which is obviously like a really crucial part of the plan for Israel. But, there's talk about amnesty for fighters who have decommissioned their weapons and things like that. But again, how it's monitored, how it's going to be rolled out, none of that's really clear to me. If you have a couple of splinter militant groups that go off and say, well, I'm the real Hamas, I'm the true Hamas, the other Hamas is just a fake Hamas who've capitulated to the, to the invaders. Does that constitute like
breaching the agreement?
Breaching of the agreement? I think this is going to be really difficult to actually sort of monitor. And to that end, there's part of it is going to include an international stabilization force, peacekeeping force from the Arab nations to come in there and sort of try and monitor things and keep things under control. 200 American troops have already landed in Gaza to help sort of start this process and get things going. So, but then they'll say, okay, we'll eventually transition to a Palestinian police force on the proviso that you do X, Y, Z, but also like, if those members of that police force were previously members of Hamas, is that going to be allowed if they're armed? Like it raises a lot of questions as to like, okay, but like all of this looks good on paper, but like how? And there's not been a lot of like how explanation as to how all of this is going to unfold. And then some of the later points of the plan, reconstruction, economic development. This is the whole Trump Gaza development plan thing that we've talked about, and a pathway to Palestinian statehood. So you can see how Israel's kind of like dangled, if you do objectives 1 through 20, we might eventually potentially get to a recognition of Palestinian statehood, but only if all of these other things sort of line up first. And so I think
these potentially seemingly impossible things,
right? These phases which have been designed by Israel for their maximum benefit, right? So whilst as I say, I think it is good that the fighting is stopping or stopped. I think the longer term prospects of the Gaza Strip there's still very much a question mark over that in my mind as to like how this peace process is actually going to roll out. And the rollout is like as important as the agreement, if not more so, because you can have the best agreement on paper, but like once it makes contact with reality is where like the actual diplomacy happens. Once someone some militant splinter group shoots someone and shoots someone else, and then the Israelis retaliate against that, and then you could scale up again into a full-scale conflict. That's when diplomacy matters, is when you can get someone in there, calm things down, when the plan is actually being operationalized. That's when diplomacy matters, because that's when things spin out of control and things start to escalate again. So, because it's still sort of a tinderbox to a certain degree, and any little match can spark it up again, right? So,
I mean, when this is all being reported as like that it's news that the ceasefire has held for another day.
They're counting. They're still counting it on an hourly basis.
Counting it in days and hours and stuff in how long it's still held. So that doesn't fill you with a lot of confidence. That it wouldn't be strange in, I guess, reporters' eyes for this to just all fall apart.
It's happened so many times before. This is something you see a lot in, international sort of like peace agreements and diplomacy, is that, you can come up with a good agreement, but it's the actual, making sure it doesn't fall apart is the hardest part. So, I'm a little bit dubious. Like, obviously, as we said, happy that, the killing stops, or at least has paused, but I'd be curious to see what the longer term sort of effects of it all are. And the thing is that, the Israeli government is already touting this as a victory. We know Netanyahu's up for election again at some point soon. I think it's within the next year or so, something like that. So
is it end of 2026 or something?
Something like that. So, he's going to basically turn around and said, well, I was a bad guy before, you guys didn't like me. And then, October 7th happened on my watch, and that really plunged his approval ratings. But I did all the things I said I was going to do, right? I'm going to protect the Israelis. I'm going to wipe out Hamas. I fought the war. I won the war. I improved our strategic position against all of our adversaries in the region, against Hezbollah in Lebanon, against, Iran, against, he's going to now run on this for his next ticket, saying I won the war, right? And
I mean, I guess, but the sentiment from just those reporting here from the ABC, just at there was an event happening in Tel Aviv where, who is it? Steve Witkoff, who's the US envoy.
Trump's envoy to everything. Yep.
Trump's envoy to everything. Him giving his speech or whatever, but they reported like when he mentioned Netanyahu, there was a lot of booing. So
and I've seen some reporting.
There's a lot of sentiment in Israel of like you dragged this out. Like they didn't think his priorities were getting the hostages home.
And
demolishing Gaza.
Yeah, and certainly his actions and the Israeli military's actions over the last 2 years would indicate that that's probably the case. I mean, there were certain times where Israeli hostages were killed by Israeli, airstrikes and attacks because they were so indiscriminately targeted that they ended up inadvertently killing their own people in their attempts to just level the Gaza Strip. So it does worry me because of the precedent that it sets, where it's like, okay, well, you can just abandon international law, you can plow ahead, be a total extremist, murder or whatever, 60,000 people plus, depending on which assessments you look at, and you'll get rewarded for it, potentially get reelected. And I think that sends a really dangerous message to the international community for rule of law and international law. It's like, hey, you can just be a total dick as long as you don't get offside with the president or with China. You can basically do whatever the fuck you want. And I think that's really corrosive for the world order, right? When we talk about this rules-based international order, and then America's best friend just seemingly does whatever the fuck it wants for a couple of years, succeeds, gets what they want, and then doesn't have any consequences. The world looks at that and goes, oh, okay, so I can fuck with my neighbors in Cambodia, says Thailand.
Yeah.
I can fuck with my neighbors in the South China Sea, says China. I can, it's not not a great...
This whole situation, outside of the 70, 80 year context and conflict between Israel and Palestine.
46,
that...
For 1946, I'm saying, not in 46 years. You know what I'm saying?
This has been a real kind of, I think, test of international law as like the concept, because it's
it failed. And it failed terribly.
It failed, that's the thing. It's kind of we all talk about oh my God, crimes against humanity, breach of international law being like some of the most serious shit. But I think we've seen how it has absolutely no teeth.
It doesn't,
when especially a country like the US, but also like countries like ours and all that sort of stuff just kind of go when it's sort of difficult for them, or when they see it at least as difficult for them to kind of
one rule for me and another for thee. It shows how, this is kind of a broader point. And the internal Adam I've got in my head is giving me the wind up signal, but it really goes to show that, the whole idea of Western, the idea of the Western sort of rules-based order with America conceived of as the hub, right? The hub of the, all the spokes shooting out from the hub as the global sort of hegemon. It shows how these multilateral organizations have really been designed to benefit the West and its allies. The people that get prosecuted by the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice and things like that, the ones who get sanctioned. I can't remember who it was, but someone said that's for Africans, basically. Consequences are for Africans. Because you look and see who bears the consequences of those kinds of actions from the International Criminal Court. It's never the president of the United States. It's never the prime minister of Britain, right? These bodies which have, integral for comprising the rules-based international order, for setting it up, for maintaining it, are the main beneficiaries of it. And the countries that are on the outer rim, to paraphrase Star Wars, they're the ones that end up bearing the brunt of it. It's sad. I don't know. There's no jokes here. There's no jokes in this entire section. So it's good that the killing is stopped, but I struggle to see how you're going to get through all 20 points of that 20-point plan. And then what happens? What happens when it breaks down? Are we just back in war again? I don't know. It seems like a very tenuous kind of end to the conflict. I don't think it's likely to hold, to be perfectly honest. But
and it's kind of one of I guess we've sort of reiterated that, but it's just sort of one of those where you hope, I hope it holds. But also, it's kind of fucked what they're holding as well. So,
and you don't have to hand it to Donald Trump for having negotiated. And this is the other thing I wanted to mention earlier. Yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, you got to hand it to Trump. He actually ended the war." I'm like, let's just wait. Let's just wait and see.
Yeah. I think, and it's you got to hand it to. It's the same as you got to hand it to Malcolm Turnbull.
No, you don't actually
marriage equality.
You don't actually got to hand it to him
through terrible, awful means. Yes. He was the prime minister. It was his government that legislated it.
Yeah, after an awful divisive plebiscite. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have to hand it to him though. You don't have to pat him on the back for doing awful, terrible things. Yes, this peace plan could end. It could end the war, but
it's a shame that they Nobel Peace Prizes already came out. You saw that it got announced.
Yeah, I did. But this could end the war, but essentially because they allowed Israel to genocide Palestine. So you don't have to hand it to them that they brought quote unquote peace to the Middle East when that was the cost.
You saw Trump said the actual winner of the Nobel Peace Prize called him up and said,
rang him or something.
Rang him and said this actually dedicated to you because it should have been you. And I was like, man, of all the things that never happened, that one never happened the most. That absolutely never happened.
I see clips like that, and knowing that we're in our AI hellscape of we can't trust what our lying eyes can see, I'm like, fuck, did he even say it? Like, oh, man. Why are we doing this to ourselves? That's a whole
and I've seen a lot of weird commentary about, you know, how like Trump outmaneuvered Netanyahu and all this sort of stuff, and like how Trump was actually, there's these things like the day he finally became president. It's like how he kind of like, how he's a masterful negotiator and all this sort of stuff. It's like, no, he just browbeat people into doing what he wanted. Like, it wasn't any kind of masterful diplomacy, as we can see from this outline of a plan. Which seems to lack any kind of meaningful engagement from both sides. It's like, well, why are you giving him all this credit for something which may not even? It's like day 2, guys. Let's everyone just cool your jets and just wait and see. I think everyone's rushing, to sort of to declare Trump the master negotiator for having brokered this deal. And it's like, honestly, I don't even know if he had that much to fucking do with it, to be perfectly honest. But anyway, we skip now to our second story. Broken Clock, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is right about something.
One thing.
Yeah.
Once.
Wrong about the Jewish space lasers, but right about Hamas. So here's Marjorie Taylor Greene saying some words that I will never forgive this administration for making me agree with just the worst people ever historically. Okay.
At the same time, the relentless bombing of the Palestinian people, and many of them have been just innocent people. They're not Hamas. They're literally women and children, and you can't unsee the amount of pictures and videos of children that have been blown to pieces and are they're finding them dead in the rubble. Those aren't actors. That isn't fake war propaganda. It's very real. And
so I just I don't. Why am I forced to listen to agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene? I don't know why. Why does this happen to me, Tom? Why are all the worst people the worst guy? It's that onion meme. The worst guy makes a great point.
Yeah, I think it's a Promethean punishment. I think just like every day, like some awful person will make a point we agree with, and then we die, and
I'd prefer that
the following day to hear another one and go, oh God.
I suppose I'd prefer that to having my liver torn out by an eagle every day, but not by much.
Not by much. Though one thing I'd want to ask her about with her saying this is like, she's not wrong. How does she feel when, all the footage of all the times that the US was blowing the shit out of Middle Eastern countries and all the women and children in the videos and the rubble? How'd she feel about them? Like when they were doing it directly rather than indirectly just selling the weapons?
Tom, as the song goes, we don't talk about Bruno. Speaking of American lawmakers, you'd be unsurprised to know that the Senate is still deadlocked over the government shutdown. Trump has reiterated his continued threats to Democrats. And I believe we did post that video last week of the weird AI video, the Russ vote as the Grim Reaper.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking weird silliness that they posted. So, I mean, it seems like from all indications and polling and things like that, it seems like the shutdown is working for the Democrats. So it's primarily predicated on this idea that, the subsidies for Obamacare are going to be retracted as part of the big, I don't know if they were just naturally expiring or if it also had something to do with the big beautiful bill act that Trump passed earlier in the year. But in any case, funding for these subsidies for these private insurance plans is winding up, and people are already getting notices in the mail saying that their insurance premiums are going to double. In some cases, for low-income people, it's going to quadruple their insurance premiums because they were more heavily subsidized under the Obamacare Act. So it's like if you're on $50,000 a year and you've got a family of 4, your insurance could literally quadruple, go from $400 a month to $1,600 a month, and that's just untenable for many families. So, it's people are getting the notices. They're connecting it with what the Democrats are saying, and talking about it in terms of their messaging about the shutdown. And it seems like, even a high proportion of MAGA Republicans think that the subsidies shouldn't be wound back. Something like 60% of MAGA Republicans think like, hey, these insurance subsidies are like, as we want to hang on to these because all of their constituents,
some of the people who need this
some of the people who use it the most because, in red states where they knocked back federal Medicare funding in the past, that means people in those states have had to more heavily rely on programs like the Affordable Care Act to get subsidized insurance because they don't have the option of Medicare. And so red states are even more reliant. So the red states and red districts are the ones that are utilizing these services the most in some instances. And their voters are telling their representatives, hey, like, I can't afford, like we were complaining about the price of eggs. This is a much more meaningful contribution to the bottom line of my budget and how, cost of living and all that sort of stuff. If my insurance premiums double, that's going to make it unaffordable for my family to have insurance. And then people drop off insurance. Insurance gets more expensive for everyone because the pool is smaller. Like, it's a really bad self-fulfilling, self-reinforcing cycle, right?
Yeah.
So, and it seems like the Democrats choosing, I've seen a lot of commentary from Ezra Klein and others being like, oh, why don't they make it about the ICE raids? Why don't they make it about immigration? Why don't they make it about how the Trump administration's closing agencies and doing all this illegal stuff? And it's like, Democrats just need a win. They just need one win on something simple, something winnable for them. And that winnable thing historically has been healthcare because Democrats, it's like one of the few issues that Democrats are trusted more on than Republicans for obvious reasons. So it's just like, let's just let them get an easy win. And then we can focus on the other stuff later. Like, I hear what you guys are saying about the fall of democracy and immigration and ICE raids. We're going to talk about all that stuff in a sec. But like, if we need all Democrats everywhere to hold the line on one thing, then let it be healthcare. That is one thing that all of the broad tent of the Democratic Party can kind of rally around, right? So,
well, yeah, and it's clearly something that actually also rallies the constituents. Like, all that other stuff should, like, in a just world, the rise of fascism should ignite everyone.
Yeah, the loss of democracy should be activating enough. Yeah.
Should be activating enough. But I think as the past couple decades have told us, that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's working for them.
They're also demanding some other stuff like restoring funding for public media outlets like NPR and things like that, and pushing back against Medicaid health insurance program cuts for poor and disabled Americans. So, and there's also other things like the rescission clause. So this is something we haven't really talked about on the podcast because it is extremely fucking boring. But there's two other things that the Trump administration has been doing to sort of stop money going through to approved programs. So one is impoundment, where basically the executive branch can say, okay, so Congress, you gave us $1 billion to achieve this goal. We've only spent $500 million, but we've already achieved the goal. So we're just going to suspend the use of the rest of that money and put it into something else. That's impoundment.
Yeah.
Which they are technically allowed to do, but it's like obviously doesn't apply to any of the things that they're using it for in the Trump administration because it's all just about going after, Democratic priorities and stopping the money there. The other thing is rescissions. Basically, the executive branch just going, hey, you told us we have to spend $1 billion on this thing, and we shan't. We shall not. We simply will not. And we'll spend that money on something else that we want to spend it on. And part of the argument is Democrats saying, well, how are we supposed to negotiate with you in good faith? Require, the majority of Congress and the Senate to pass these pieces of legislation, these funding bills to do things. If the executive branch just like completely
can just go now.
Unconstitutionally negates the separation of powers and just says, actually, I'm in control of the purse strings. Nah. So that's obviously one of their demands as well. But
again, that's sort of been the whole
hard to communicate that
Trump
to people though. You know what I mean? Like as soon as I start, I can feel my own eyes glazing over as soon as I start talking about rescissions. It's like, that's not a great message to run on. What they want to run on is your insurance bill is doubling. Whose fault is it? It's the Republicans. Who's fighting for you? The Democrats. We got to keep it real simple, guys. You know, like that's the level of messaging that it needs to be. And because they're doing that, they seem to be winning by all accounts, this shutdown.
Yeah. But the whole, I think though the rescissions thing still sounds interesting in the sense that, both Trump presidencies have just been a huge exercise in, but if the president just says, nah, everyone goes, oh, we didn't know he could say that.
Yeah, and the problem is by acquiescing,
and then they melt.
by not having any kind of constitutional oversight over those kinds of actions, the House, because it's filled with Republicans, has basically established a predicate for further uses of that same kind of power, if that makes sense. So if you shutter,
clause.
If you shutter the EPA, if you shutter the Department of Education, if you shutter the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and no one really does anything about it because Republicans are all spineless cucklords, then essentially the next time that they do it with some other agency, or they're going to go, well, look, we did it 3 other times and you guys didn't say anything about it, so I guess we are allowed now to do it because we've created a precedent. So, but like we've said before, the Democrats really have no power. This is the only exercising the couple of votes that they have in the Senate to allow
strong arm anything.
And this is, the Tea Party Republicans did the same thing to Obama when he was in power and had a majority in the House and the Senate. It's the only lever that they've got left to pull. And I think Democratic voters really want to see that their elected representatives are trying to fight back. I think they're less concerned about the results of the shutdown than they are about seeing that their Democratic leaders actually have a bit of fucking spine, have some vertebra, and are actually willing to push back on some of this stuff. Whether it's successful or not is almost besides the point. You just want to see them fighting, right?
To see them try. It's just unfortunate.
Get caught trying, as Obama said.
Yeah, the consequences of a government shutdown, though, are very, very tangible.
Catastrophic. Yeah. For people working in the park service, people working
it's a gamble.
There were, if you're a flight, what's the person who manages the safety of flights? No.
Oh, like the air traffic controller.
Yeah, if you're an air traffic controller, you're obliged to continue working even though you're not getting paid. And it's
many
caused...
of them are striking. Walking out.
Calling in sick, quote unquote. And so to the extent to which entire airports in America have basically been forced to shutter because they don't have enough personnel to operate them safely. TSA, the people who do the security checks, again, also mandated to work. People in the military. There was this heartbreaking clip I saw of Mike Johnson appearing on C-SPAN, the government TV network.
That is heartbreaking.
Where I know it was horrendous. With this woman, she was a Republican voter, and she's like, I have 2 disabled children. My husband serves with distinction in the military. He's not getting paid because of this. And if we don't get paid before the 15th, I don't know how I will get medicine for my critically ill children.
Yeah.
I'm a Republican voter. You have the option to just draft legislation that would continue funding areas like the military, all these other areas that aren't in dispute. You could just independently fund those if you really wanted to, right? But the Republicans hold all the levers of power. They think that they can win the shutdown because historically that's what happens. The opposition party that's not in power that initiates a shutdown because they won't lend their, whatever it is, 4 Senate votes to the opposing party to get legislation through. Almost historically, almost always do they lose the fight. They're the ones that have to end up capitulating to some degree. So the fact that, I think Republicans went into this with this thing of we're just going to browbeat people and tell them all it's the Democrats' fault. The Democrats are trying to give healthcare to trans illegal immigrants or, whatever fucking horse shit they're talking about. They just whack some trans on it and that'll be fine. And obviously that's not working. And so I think they're kind of at a loss. But it's just really heartbreaking to hear this woman and her personal story. And she calls her and it's this times millions of people who are going to be affected by I don't know, if you're working a job and you're looking after a family, you can't just afford to have your job not pay you for indeterminate amount of time. It's you're supposed to get back pay, but when and how long is that going to take? And how long does a lot of people in America, I remember hearing some statistic about how there's some massive percentage of people in America who can't withstand a $1,000 emergency. They just simply do not have the cash.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about millions of workers that work for the federal government, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people whose lives are going to be upended and destroyed by the fact that potentially, the government's been shut down as a direct result because, so many different departments, right? So
yeah, it's what both parties are doing is dangerous.
Yeah.
But the ones with all the levers of power kind of are now in the.
It's pretty rich.
In the position to do something about it.
We can invade cities. We can, have Black Hawk helicopters in Chicago, and we can do whatever the fuck we want. We're the most powerful, authoritarian regime that's ever existed. But we need 4 Democrats. We can't do nothing. We're just doing.
But they won't wet us.
We have a supermajority in the House, the Senate. We have the presidency and the vast majority of the Supreme Court. But we can't do nothing. We're little powerless babies. It's like, no one fucking buys that, right? So it's it seems like thus far the Republicans are owning it, and the Democrats and like truthfully, I don't think Trump like gets out of bed in the morning to like cut people's healthcare. I honestly think he could give a shit about any of that sort of stuff. So he's probably like, just fucking make a deal, like
he just wants to stay out of jail.
I just want the Nobel Peace Prize, like just fucking. I don't want to be talking about this shit. Like sort it out.
He doesn't want to do anything to do with being president.
No, he doesn't want to do the job.
To enact. No,
he's just trying to get some more jets from the Qataris.
Yeah, it's all the people around him that have the crazy fascist agenda. He is just a fascist piece of shit willing to go along with it.
Yeah, yes, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because it keeps him out of jail. Because we've had such a precedent that, like, they're like, the president can't be held accountable for anything. So he's like, okie dokie.
Yeah.
I'd like to continue being president, please.
Yeah, president forever, thanks. Speaking of escaping criminal responsibility, Trump received a question this week about one Ghislaine Maxwell. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Ghislaine. The name is so unfamiliar to me. I just don't. I've never heard it before. I can't remember if there was any Epstein stuff, something like that. Epstein? Jeffrey, right? Jeffrey Epstein. And she was associated. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really ring a bell.
Financier?
Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein, the financier and friend of best friend of Prince Andrew.
Nice.
And Donald Trump.
How's he doing?
Not good. As it turns out. Have you not tuned into the news?
No.
Here's Trump forgetting that he was decades-long best friends with Ghislaine Maxwell as this question comes up.
His term today, Mr. President. The Supreme Court is back in session. Yeah. They rejected today an appeal by Ghislaine Maxwell to overturn her conviction. That means her only chance at getting out of prison is a pardon from you. Is that something you're open to?
Who are we talking about?
Ghislaine Maxwell.
I haven't heard the name in so long. I can say this, that I'd have to take a look at it. I would have to take a look. Did they reject that?
She wanted to appeal her conviction.
And what happened?
They said that they were not going to hear her appeal.
I see. Well, I'll take a look at it. I will speak to the DOJ. I wouldn't consider it or not consider it. I don't know anything about it. I will speak to the DOJ.
Why would she be a candidate for clemency, sir?
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to speak to the DOJ. I'll look at it. I have a lot of people who have asked me for pardons. I call him Puff Daddy has asked me for a pardon.
But she was convicted of child sex trafficking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to take a look at it. I'd have to ask DOJ.
I know he hasn't thought about it at all because his head is just full of hot air. But like to say, I just haven't heard the name for so long.
It's been like 3 weeks, Donald. What are you talking about?
Story, it's
the biggest thing in the last 3 months. It's been the biggest story ever internationally.
Yeah, the Epstein, his relationship to Jeffrey Epstein has like just been hounding him for most of this year. Like, you can't say you haven't heard the name in a long time.
Either you're lying, or we need to like get some
really
tests going, some fMRI shit going, because if you really haven't heard the name Ghislaine Maxwell in a while, it's something's going wrong with your brain, box, buddy.
His brain box is very fucked. He thought habeas corpus was a person this past week.
Bloody habeas.
I don't know if you saw that.
Habeas always getting on my nerves. Yeah. Get out of here, habeas, and take your corpus with you.
Yeah, journalist asking him if he's considering suspending habeas corpus. Just like, why would I suspend him?
Oh my gosh.
It's like habeas corpus is not.
Hey, habeas, you're fired.
Yeah.
Sir, let's just sign this over here, Donald.
Yeah. Just absolutely crazy. And then even if hasn't heard of anything, hasn't heard the name of Ghislaine Maxwell in a while. I've completely forgotten who she is. If he can even remember in the last 10 seconds of what he hears, someone saying, yeah, but they've been convicted of child sex trafficking. So
I'll take a look at it.
why would they be a candidate?
I'll take a look at it.
I'll ask the DOJ. Why would you
that
even
you're in
ask
control
the DOJ?
of?
Yeah, convicted sex trafficker. Child sex trafficking.
Child sex trafficking. Yeah, not only did she procure girls for Jeffrey Epstein, she also participated in the abuse, which has been proven in court. That's why she's spending 20 years in jail.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, why would she get a pardon anyway? I don't know why she would. I'll look into it.
I don't know.
Back to you
hey, you're the one that brought it up. I didn't ask about it.
Yeah.
And this one, I call him Puff Daddy. And it's like, wait, so he remembers P. Diddy's name from 1997, but he doesn't remember the name Ghislaine Maxwell. It's a very selective memory he's got going on here.
I was going to say, I thought, calling P. Diddy Puff Daddy is, I'm hardly a hip hop aficionado, but that's a deep cut, I thought. I thought him being called Puff Daddy is nearly 30 years ago.
Puff Daddy, or as you may have known him for 3 weeks, Brother Love is what he called himself. There's a real thing. Yeah, there's
a real thing.
Yeah, there was already existing artist called Brother Love, and so he dropped that and moved to something else. Okay. P. Diddy's such a piece of shit, man. That's weird. Didn't love that. I don't. The fact it's just when someone says convicted child sex trafficker, the only answer to the question of do they deserve a pardon is no, I don't pardon child sex traffickers. The end. Why? I have to ask DOJ. I don't know. Pam, what do you think? I'm going to text Pam. Hey, Pam, why aren't we? Did you see that thing that he sent?
I'll do this right now and start texting.
So apparently, that message that he sent out on Truth Social saying, Pam, why aren't we arresting James Shady Comey for all of his terrible misdeeds? Apparently, he thought that was a private message.
He thought it was a text message.
He thought it was a PM. No. He must have been using Truth Social's private messaging feature.
Yeah,
or he thought he was, but he was actually just posting out to the wider public and was seemed, according to reports, genuinely surprised when everyone had heard about it. So, so apparently he meant to be just messaging Pam, being Pam, why aren't we? Because the message looked like a private message because he just said Pam, didn't at her or anything. It just said Pam, why aren't we?
Yeah, I forget. Is it also full of caps lock kind of stuff like he normally does?
Yes, but that's what he always does. So it's
that's just how he texts. So that's interesting to me because I know he would do that in his speaking out to the masses, all that. But in his private conversations, he does all caps. President Donald Trump.
Thank you for your attention to this matter. I think he just.
That's so good.
I think he just does text to speech. I think and it's filling in where he yells. In all caps, you know what I mean? Who knows? But the fact that it's such a major security breach that you're obviously private messaging members of your cabinet using your own social media application text chat.
Hillary's emails, am I right?
But Hillary's emails, can't trust her, can't trust crooked Hillary with her emails. Hey, Pam.
I was going to say, Russia, if you're listening, just, I guess, text Trump.
Russia is listening. Russia, in this case, is for sure listening.
He's for sure listening. They don't even have to hack him. They just have to wait for him to privately text Pam.
I very much doubt Truth Social.
What's going
very
on.
much doubt Truth Social is ISO 27001 fucking compliant, right?
Yeah.
SOC 2. Don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was weird. Speaking of weird things, here's RFK Jr. on round 2 of autism conspiracy theory nonsense.
There's 2 studies that show children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism. It's highly likely because they're given Tylenol. So, none of this is dispositive, but all of it is stuff that we should be paying attention to.
No.
Yeah, all of it's positive. None of this is positive, meaning none of this is proven. This could be all bullshit, but we should be paying attention to it. Us, the Department of Health.
Turns out I could be completely full of shit. Maybe the worm's running things now. I don't know. I was a heroin addict. But maybe it's the foreskins.
Yeah, honestly, there's an element of that I only just noticed now, which he specified early. So he's just like, only people who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism. So is he saying that only people, like, yeah, because he's not saying, even though this is sort of what people have run with, he's not saying that the very procedure of circumcision causes autism, which is equally as insane as all the other shit that he says.
I mean, the dick to autism pathway is can I say, not established in the medical literature.
But yeah, saying that then the children are given Tylenol as a painkiller, and
Tylenol and babies is bad. Yeah, that's the unsubstantiated
that's the argument they're going with.
Yeah, unsubstantiated argument that he's been propounding. Recently.
But to say that early. So does the Tylenol, like, just picking apart his crazy logic here? So does the Tylenol only affect children and the development of autism? What about adults taking Tylenol?
I don't know.
Because he was previously saying pregnant women shouldn't take Tylenol because then maybe that would affect it.
The fetus,
the child. But then, I don't know, now they're expanding it into just taking Tylenol at all for the children.
As a kid,
which then begs the question, an adult taking Tylenol, how is that any different? Like, and then, so does that mean that people could just develop autism as adults taking Tylenol? Like, they don't realize what they're unpacking
Tom.
here.
This is how it happens. You take a Panadol, all of a sudden you're just really interested in trains. That's how it happens.
Yeah, it explains a lot. But also, I hope that this is going to turn into just a bit of a, like, people who are so super against even like the concept of being autistic, of like being on the spectrum, are all going to be revealing whether or not they're circumcised. Just people are just going to be oversharing the current status of their junk and just being like, oh, I'm not circumcised. So no, I've got a full neurotypical brain. Look at my turtlenecked dick.
Neurotypical brain and neurotypical dick.
Yeah, and to prove how neurotypical I am, look at my penis. See how there's foreskin still here? Look at it.
I know, like, it's obviously ridiculous. I can fit a lemon
in this foreskin. I am not on the spectrum.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Such a visual. I know it's, like, obviously patently ridiculous and, like, we're laughing about it, but it's just, like, legitimately insane.
This is the head of the health department.
The head of the Secretary for Health and Human Services, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Is believing this stuff, is saying it out loud in front of microphones on purpose.
Is saying out loud,
it's just
this
insane.
Might be complete and utter horse shit, but we should pay attention to it.
But just, roll the dice with 350 million people's health. Why not? Anyway, ICE raids have continued in the United States this week alongside deployments of National Guard troops in places where they don't belong. There was this whole stoush between, I think it was the governor of Oregon and
because it's
Texas.
Portland that they're
Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon's one of the places that we talked about it last week, that they're saying it's a war zone. We got to send in the army to figure it out, and all the old people were just feeding the ducks, being like, "Oh, Portland's lovely. What's going on?" Like, yeah.
So, oh my God, Diane Keaton died. Oh man.
Yeah, that happened this morning.
Oh, that sucks. Oh, I loved her. Oh, bummer.
The one that got away.
Sure. So maybe 50 years too late on that one, but so what were we talking about? So Portland, Oregon. So so there's a whole stash this week about, like, deploying, federalizing National Guard troops from Oregon, and the Oregon governor was like, we don't need that, and they took it to court, and they got a federal circuit judge to say no. There's no reason for, like, on the ground for having, there's not enough disruption to justify the use of this kind of force. So no. And apparently the government lawyer was like, okay, I hear you, judge, absolutely. And then, like, the next day back in the courtroom, she goes, what did I say? He goes, you said not to deploy the National Guard. She goes, what did you do? Deployed the National Guard. Like, did it anyway. And basically what they did was they federalized the National Guard. Well, the National Guard in Texas was already federalized for some reason. And then they say, oh, well, we can't nationalize Portland's federal guard, we can send some of the Texas Federal Guard guys into Portland, and then they can do National Guard stuff there anyway. And the judge is like, no, I explicitly, like, are you fucking with me? Like, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like lawyer speak for like, are you fucking serious right now? Yeah. I saw the transcript. Matt Al read it out on air the other day. It was hilarious. Where the judge is like, but bitch, did I stutter? No reason for National Guard. Doesn't matter where they come from. You can't just put the fucking National Guard in for no reason. Like, what's the explanation for this? And the lawyer's like, oh, well, you said National Guard from Portland. So it's just like, no National Guard. There's no, the reason for the decision is that there's no need for the National Guard. So why would it matter if you get National Guard in from somewhere else? But apparently it's being, sort of not stopped because there's not an injunction against it because, it needs to go and work its way through the courts. And this is the thing is Trump just
takes time,
moves at the speed of bullshit. And then, maybe some court cases catch up to him later on, years after the fact. But like the courts are just not agile enough to do what they need to do here to try and stop this rolling out. And we're seeing it in states like Illinois, where agencies like ICE, despite the lack of National Guard, these federal agents are basically deploying military hardware and tactics on civilian targets. So there was this, on the 1st of October, there's a low-rent apartment complex on Chicago's South Shore, and around 1 a.m, people started hearing boots hit the roof, like from choppers, like Black Hawk helicopters in like suburbia Chicago, dudes coming down from ropes, like fucking Black Hawk down, bashing indoors, throwing flashbangs in there. They pulled everyone out of these apartments. People were zip tied. Some, naked babies were naked out in the middle of the street while they're conducting these raids. It's like something out of a fucking war film. It's crazy. Like, I've never heard of this kind of, and this is why when we talk about the militarization of police and all this military surplus hardware that comes out of the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and then gets redeployed domestically, why that's a problem, why ICE getting their budget fucking quintupled is a massive problem. They now have a budget that is larger than most militaries in the world. So, and this is how it's going to be deployed. There was like a handful of members or alleged members of Tren de Aragua, this loosely affiliated network of gangs that were meant to be in this building. And in order to arrest them, they conducted the fucking Osama bin Laden raid, I guess, to extricate these people.
They've just given them a whole bunch of toys that they're itching to use.
Military toys, yeah, no, yeah. And flashbangs are not completely harmless, sort of weapons.
It's not like COD. Like
no, a lot of these weapons
have lied to you about
flashbangs and things like rubber bullets and things like that, tear gas. These things are now not being called non-lethal weapons. They're called less lethal weapons.
Yeah.
Because there are a number of documented instances, and this article goes on to detail some of the dangers of using some of these some of these tools that can still kill people. Shrapnel, if a flashbang goes off and you're in a room with a toddler and a flashbang goes off in their face, it could make them deaf. The shrapnel could fucking kill them. This is not sort of thing that you deploy on families in the middle of the night for the purposes of arresting a couple of, half a dozen people. Like, to treat an entire, apartment block like they're all fucking criminals is like, A, it's not allowed. It's unreasonable search and see. It's like blatantly, obviously unconstitutional. But it's also like incredibly dangerous and very unnecessary. Like, treating the whole thing like it's fucking Black Hawk Down is just ridiculous.
Shouldn't even treat an entire apartment block full of criminals that way.
No.
Like, these are like weapons of war.
Yes. Yeah, it is not legal to. And there was a famous clip floating around this week of, this priest who was in front of an ICE facility, protesting. He was praying, sitting there, doing nothing, not disobeying any orders. And there's video. You just see one of the ICE guys, sitting on the roof with rubber, like a beanbag gun. Funt, shoots him in the head. Like, these weapons are not meant to be deployed in, these smoke bombs and things, they're meant to bounce them off the ground. They're meant to, they're meant to be deployed in ways that are supposedly less dangerous, so you don't have projectiles hitting people in the fucking... If you get a fucking beanbag shot at your head at 80 miles an hour, it could fucking kill you, you know? And there's this priest just standing there praying, protesting this facility, and they shoot him in the fucking head on purpose. He clearly lines him up, bang, shot in the head. You could have fucking killed that guy. For what? For no reason.
Like that. Yeah, it's like that that ABC not ABC, but sorry, Australian journalist.
Same thing. She got lined up. Lined up and got shot in the back.
Hey, I have a quote unquote non-lethal weapon and I'm itching to use it.
Yeah.
Bang.
Yeah, and it just goes to show the fucking goons that they hire for these roles. These talentless fucking hacks that want to, deport, too much of a loser to join the cops. And so you've joined the federal agency with even less restrictions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yep.
And clearly this is like an ongoing thing now where Trump and his goons are targeting democratic cities for the purposes of flooding the streets with ICE or with the National Guard to normalize, so this is my theory, to normalize the idea of troops on the streets. So when it comes to, say, the 2026 midterms, hey, all of a sudden the troops are out on the streets. We're all used to this. It happened in LA, happened in Chicago, happened in Portland. Now the troops are just kind of a fixture here. There's just kind of troops on the street all the time with fucking, M16s.
Keeping an eye on those protests.
Just keeping an eye on the ballot boxes, just keeping an eye on the polling places. And maybe we've got to suspend a couple of places. Maybe we've got to suspend the ballot boxes. We create an environment that's febrile. We deliberately target communities for deportations and ICE proceedings in order to inflame them. Then once things get inflamed, we send in the National Guard in order to put down the violent resistance that's formed as a result of our violent tactics. And then we can justify that to use whatever fucking, false flag bullshit to justify the use of force that we wanted to use on, communities of color and Democrats and our political enemies in the first place. Like, it's a classic authoritarian playbook. Cause the problem and then solve it with a crackdown on state violence. Like, it's a tale as old as time.
Yep.
No jokes. No funny ha-has.
I got nothing. It's too bleak.
It's not good. What else was not good this week? The White House's Antifa roundtable was not good. So in the wake of the Charlie Kirk massacre, fascist Barbie, what's her name? Kristi Noem, got up in front of the Antifa roundtable, which is ostensibly Trump gathering his cabinet around to just spitball publicly ideas about how to target Antifa and George Soros and other people he doesn't like as a way of dismantling the domestic terror network, which definitely exists, called Antifa.
Yeah.
Even though it's just a loose collection of like ideologically aligned, more or less aligned people that hasn't got a headquarters. There's no membership. There's no... I wonder if Trump watches like something like Eddington and sees the Antifa super soldiers on the plane coming in from fucking Soros HQ and it's like, incredible, I knew it was real. Like, it's like,
he doesn't watch movies.
This is not how, like, obviously this whole thing is a satire about how this, like, how absurd it would be for a network like this to exist as the right-wing fever dreamers imagine it. But they seem to genuinely believe that this is a real thing. Anyway, so here's some crazy shit that Kristi Noem said at the Antifa roundtable. So crazy.
We arrested recently in Portland was the girlfriend of one of the founders of Antifa.
The girlfriend of one of the founders of the organization which does not exist, Antifa. Okay.
And that we are hoping that as we go after her, interview her, and prosecute her, we will get more and more information about the network and how we can root them out and eliminate them from the existence of American society. I want to thank the new journalists here today for telling their stories and for being able and willing to go to the streets and to cover what's happening here in America. Many
new journalists, CE-friendly, independent, sort of bloggers that we've got aligned with us.
times the legacy media has looked the other way, refused to tell the stories. The networks have not really focused on what this is and what damage it is doing to our country and how this network of Antifa is just as sophisticated as MS-13, as TDA, as ISIS, as Hezbollah, as Hamas, as all of them. They are just as dangerous. They have an agenda to destroy us, just like the other terrorists we've dealt with for many, many years. And today is the day that we have a president that won't tolerate it and will stand up and fight for the American people. So thank you for being here, for being so bold, and for standing in the gap at such a time as this. It will matter, it will make a difference, and your life will be one of significance because of what you've done today. So with that, God bless you, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I love how the far right seems to view left wingers as simultaneously like democratic babies who can't get anything done, and also like Antifa super soldier terrorist network.
Yeah,
you know, like so I recently watched the new Paul Thomas Anderson film, One Battle After Another.
Oh yeah,
which it sort of engages sort of satirically in this idea that there's this like organized network of leftist, you know, Antifa, you know, terrorist network kind of thing, and like games out like, you know, characters in this scenario being broken up by the fascist sort of government of Christian nationalists. And it's like, yeah, the whole idea is so patently absurd. There is no leftist. It's like the Red Scare, you know, the back in the whatever it was, the Goldwater days, the Reds under the bed. Except if there were no Reds, like if communism didn't exist, you know, it's just like the Lavender Scare.
Invented a problem.
If there were no gays, sort of thing. It's just like the left, like do like anti-fascist groups exist? Yeah, there is some sort of loosely defined coalition of anti-fascist organizers and protesters and things like that, but they're not funded. It's just like whatever, the Socialist Alliance of America, and they go out and protest whenever there's ICE actions happening. You know, it's like, it's much less organized and well-funded than they seem to think it is. And also, like, anarchists by definition don't organize like that. They don't have membership groups like the fucking, the Heritage Foundation, and, like, just that's not how anti-establishment people organize themselves, right? The whole thing is just so false.
Could you imagine like all the lefty people who attend these protests or have done anything in the name of Antifa? Can you imagine them all agreeing on anything be such a large organization? Like some of them, they'd talk about like serving croissants in Australia is appropriation. I mean, I
think if you actually read Das Kapital, that's not what Marx was insinuating. Like, it's just like, it's a bunch of those people like disagreeing vociferously about tiny differences in their opinion, But like, it's just such a ridiculous idea that there's any kind of like organized terroristic leftist enterprise. They're just like, it simply does not exist.
No, they could not agree for long enough to even like organize the first meeting.
So if anything is Antifa, then everything is Antifa. Everything that is against us is Antifa. And it's so funny because the acronym, the portmanteau Antifa, is anti-fascist. So are you pro-far now? Is that what that means? Like, if you're against the anti-fascists, what does that make you? Like, definitionally, what does that make you?
Yep. They lack the self-awareness to realize that, but it's pretty freaking obvious.
Are we the baddies? No.
Yes,
we're just the ones that are anti-fascist. Yeah, so it was a whole weird fucking North Korea style sort of half day of, Trump administration officials fucking hand jobbing each other in front of the president. But yeah, it's just to say that any sort of domestic political resistance is just as dangerous as ISIS and is going to be treated in the same way. I mean, Trump issued an executive order last week, which, again, I have to stress, legally means fucking nothing. It's just paper that he signed saying that Antifa is now deemed a terrorist organization, which under American law is not a thing you can do. You can't declare a domestic group a terrorist organization. That's just simply not how the law is written. But,
Oh, wow, they can't, can they?
No, they can't.
Like US law?
There's criminal penalties for material support for terrorism. This is the commentary I've heard about it. Like, if you, as an American citizen, turn around and give Hezbollah money, that's material support for terrorism, which is a crime for which you can be charged. But you can't just like criminalize.
But a group like the Proud Boys
organizations
could not be like
they could be a criminal group, but they couldn't be a terrorist group. Is the point, right?
Okay,
so
interesting.
Yeah, this executive order that he's created about Antifa is literally meaningless, but doesn't mean that it's not going to have any effect on the Department of Justice and how they execute their warrants. And lots of people in the NGO community in the leftist side of things are really concerned now, and they're getting a lot of legal advice saying, be really careful how you spend your money, what you advocate for. Make sure everything's, traceable and accountable, because you might face scrutiny from law enforcement because of your status as a leftist organization, even though it's completely against the First Amendment, completely unconstitutional, completely not legal. You might still face scrutiny, which in itself, like if you're getting an investigation from the FBI up in your business, it's lawyers' fees, it disrupts your life. Just the mere fact of investigation is incredibly disruptive to your life, even if nothing ever comes of it. It's like a years-long process that you're tied up in courts and lawyers and spend down your life savings. The point is to chill the speech of these organizations, even if no conviction ever necessarily comes of it. Who knows where the courts will be in fucking 3 years anyway? Maybe you do get convicted of... Trump said that during this thing, there was like, someone had evidence of someone burning an American flag. He's like, oh yeah, we got to get those details. Make sure that guy gets charged. It's like, burning an American flag is an explicitly protected form of First Amendment speech as dictated by a Supreme Court case in the 1980s, which was about flag burning. It has been deemed explicitly legal. Yeah. And Trump's like, yeah, let me get it. Do you write that guy's details down? We're going to convict him. I was like, convict him of what? There's no crime. What are you talking about?
I don't know where to begin. It's just so blatantly absurd, and I'm just like the freaking tumbleweed in the head right now. It is so much that it just wipes everything flat.
There's things that we've neglected to include in the rundown this week because we simply don't have the time that in any other administration would be like an era-defining scandal.
Yeah.
More shit with fucking Trump meme coins and, people as in the Tom Homan thing. This wasn't even the rundown thing. His border czar, Tom Homan, took a paper bag filled with 50 grand worth of cash from FBI agents at the end of the Biden administration for the promise of future government contracts when he was, back in power under Trump as he was expected to be.
Yeah.
And there's no consequences. Nothing happened. They were asking Pam Bondi questions about it in there's a Senate hearing this week. And they're like, hey, so what happened to the 50 grand worth of cash? And she's like, that was before my time. The FBI said there was no crime. It's like, that's not what I said. What happened to the literal paper bag filled with cash of taxpayer funds? Does he still have it? I understand you guys neglected to prosecute it for political reasons, but seriously, what happened to the 50 grand worth of FBI cash?
Where's the finesse gone? I know I've said it before, but where's the finesse?
Corruption used to be sexy. It used to be guys in suits and smoke-filled back rooms doing deals.
It used to be a skill. Now it's just lazy.
Here is bag with cash. It's fucking basic.
Literally got plastic, paper bags of cash. They might as well write dollar signs or bribe on the bags, right?
Bribe for contracts. Yeah, and apparently nothing ever came of it because as soon as Trump came in, they shut it down. So that wasn't even on the rundown. That's just one of the many fucking dog shit stories coming out of the Trump administration this week. For any other president would be era defining. You get the Star report. It'd be a 3-6 month process where it'd be nothing but headlines about this thing. The Holman thing will be out of the news next week. We didn't even bother covering, we covered it, but didn't even bother putting it in the rundown because there'll be another one next week. Who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Anyway, to return to more mundane Australian political news back across the seas to our home country. Tom, senior bald correspondent, Tom Heath, tell us about, it's David Pocock's bald man.
Oh, okay. I was going to say this.
Senior ACT correspondent, maybe? That's probably more appropriate.
Sure. I was going to say this story has little to nothing to do with baldness. But, aside from the fact that, yes, you're right, Senator David Pocock is bald. Just kind of in an interesting story sort of happening here in Australia this week. So Senator David Pocock, he's one of the independent senators in the ACT. He's the former captain of the Wallabies rugby team. He's a big sporty athletic guy. So when I saw a story about him being kicked out of the Parliament Sports Club this week, I thought like, oh, geez, why? Is he too good? Is it the fact that he would absolutely smoke all of you?
Former rugby player. So yeah, that might have been the reason.
Yeah, that he absolutely smoked everyone involved. But no, that's not the case. So, okay, so some context here. If you didn't know, like I didn't know until sort of this week, there is an Australian Parliament sports club, which is just like a social sports league, predominantly meant to be between, sitting politicians and journalists, to just have friendly games of sort of any kinds of sport. I guess I don't know specifically what they play. If it's rugby, yeah, David Pocock would destroy them. But then also
touch football and that sort of stuff, apparently.
Oh yeah, touch football, stuff like that. Yeah, so just fun between the politicians and the journalists. Just fun, absolute fun.
Is it just me that's very bothered
fun
about that kind of like friendly access?
Well, someone else is bothered as well.
I don't know.
That's
David something. Pocock. I really do feel like the Canberra Press Gallery just is a little bit too inside baseball with a lot of their commentary. A lot of the time, it's very much like. And if they speak too badly about either side and really critique them, they'll lose their access, as evidenced by this kind of access that they have. You don't get to like hang out on the soccer pitch and be buddies with David Pocock and get invited to the parties and the soirees if you're too critical, right? Like, it kind of makes the
finding about touch football game a little awkward.
That's the whole thing, is to like build relationships. But I don't know how comfortable I am with journalists building those kind of parasocial type relationships with the people that they're meant to be covering, right? Like, isn't that the whole point of holding power to account to some degree, right? Like,
it's tricky because otherwise, how else do we get all those, like an unnamed member of parliament is just clarifying, in the party room, this happened. It's having those kinds of relationships that, like, it's like.
But it's one thing developing a relationship in a professional context as a source. It's another thing being like, catch you at the footy on Thursday, mate. Like, I don't know. It's much more collegial than I would like, I think.
Yeah. Well, and so David Pocock, it seemed like, isn't much of a fan of it either. But that's because there's an extra little element here. It's not just politicians and journalists, but corporate memberships can also be purchased to join the club for about $2,500 Australian dollars. So,
it's literally pay for play. It's literally pay for play game.
Yeah, play game. There are people in this club that aren't journalists or sitting politicians, and one of those members is from a body called Responsible Wagering Australia, which is a gambling industry body, represents companies like Sportsbet. Apparently,
unlike the name, it's not about responsible gambling. It's about discouraging responsible gambling, essentially.
Gambling. It's about gambling.
Pro gambling.
So they represent Sportsbet. And so David Pocock kind of raised this as just a bit of like isn't it kind of odd that we have this social sports club and then people like a lobbying group for the gambling industry.
And it's registered as a lobbying interest.
And also the Parliament Sports Club is registered as a lobbying interest or group, like in the lobbyist register for the Attorney General, and also as the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese is listed as the president. So I guess of the Parliament Sports Club. So David Pocock was just kind of raising, isn't it kind of odd that our Prime Minister is the president of a registered lobby group that involves gambling companies?
It is, David. Good David. Shout.
I agree, David. It was like, I wasn't aware that this club existed. It's odd that it operates like that. And it is kind of odd. That is very strange. Well, the response to it was like, oi, David, shut up. It's just some fun sports. You're out of the club. David Pocock was kicked out of the club for speaking out about this.
Red card, you're out of here.
Yeah, which David Pocock immediately took public, kind of being like, I got kicked out because I asked questions about this, because he's been very much on the line of
sort of,
let's gambling money influencing politics, and he was all for the
especially with
the banning of gambling ads.
In the wake of Labor's stalled gambling ad reform project that seems to have just sort of quietly gone away in the last year or so.
But it seemed to just really ruffle some feathers because we got some quotes during this week from members of government who disagreed with Senator Pocock, one of them being Foreign Minister Penny Wong, where she was quoted as saying, for you to come in here and try and get a grab up by asserting what you just asserted, being the lobbying Prime Minister being president of a lobbying group that involves gambling corporate membership, is not really, it really is not the way you generally play politics. It's a parliamentary sports club. Which I'd say. So
why is it being funded by fucking gambling representative peak bodies? Why is it necessary? If it's just a sporting club, do what everyone else does. When they have a sporting club at their workplace, you pass around the hat and everyone puts fucking $50 in to rent the court. And you know what I mean? Why does it need fucking corporate sponsorship if that's the case?
And the thing that I find crazy is that any of these people, like, I know we got a quote from Penny Wong there, but like that any of these people can say with a straight face, like, no, what? This is just a sports club. Like, get over it. When like, it's movies taught me,
it's just the Woodside Sports Club.
If movies have taught me nothing else. It's that how many movies can you think of? I was just watching Hacks the other day, and this exact thing happened where it's like, we want to get a particular outcome. We want to negotiate with the head of a TV network or a politician or a whatever. How do we get our foot in the door? How do we do it? You know what they do? They find out what sport they play, and then they play them at it.
Yeah.
And they play socially
relationships,
with them.
Famously about building relationships. Yes.
Yeah. After the game or like, between rounds or something, just saying, hey, so I hear you manage the Herpaderp account or like whatever. And then that's how these kinds of things happen.
Hey, bro, I'm just toweling off. You're responsible for the Johnson account, right? Like, that's how these fucking deals get done. So Hacks, this is the biopic about the phone hacking scandal in the UK. The one?
Hacks is a drama comedy about Gene Smart show.
Yes, I've seen that. I thought you were talking about it's called The Hack. I've heard about it. I haven't watched it.
No, I haven't watched that either. But yeah, Hacks has like similar sorts of things of like, oh, we want to get this particular outcome out of the head of the network. Oh, we'll join her pickleball team. Yeah. Like, and it's a comedic thing sort of there, but it's like, Yeah,
of course that's how it works.
Like, I know, like, oh, don't believe everything you see on TV, but it's like, but this is just like a classic trope.
That's not how lobbying works. Lobbying and corruption doesn't work like it does in the movies where someone slides a check. I'm going to write down a number. I'm going to slide it across to you, and then you'll do corruption for me. Like that's not how it works.
Sitting on two park benches with our backs together so no one sees us.
Like, just talk on your phone.
Just talk on your phone.
Don't look at me. It's not fucking slow horses. Like this is how lobbying happens. It's all about personal relationships and who you know and who you can talk to and who you have access to and whose ear you can talk into and say, hey, look, I can set up this fundraiser event for you, but what I'd really like is XYZ. That's how it happens, right? And good on David Pocock for calling this out. And this is exactly why I love independence in Parliament, because both sides of the political, both major political parties would never call attention to something like this because it implicates both of them. But you have people like Allegra Spender, you have people like Monique Ryan, who notably both neglected to join the sports club for similar concerns as that David Pocock's identified. The reason you have political independence in there is so when they see these entrenched, sort of little power plays that nobody likes to talk about because both sides are benefiting from it, they can turn around and say, hey, I'm an independent. I don't give a shit about any of that. This seems wrong to me. I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? That's why it's great.
Yeah. Well, you'll be glad to know, though, that they have since rescinded the kicking out of David Pocock. He's welcome to come back and join should he so choose. After all this, I don't know whether he has. But I
wonder if he's going to experience any higher instances of rough touches at the touch football game, one wonders.
Oh, just more like, what are we talking about, fellas? And everyone just kind of trails
nothing,
off
David.
And goes like, I gotta go get something from my car.
No, he's here. Shut up.
But so the chief executive of the club, Andy Turnbull, was quoted also as saying that you can't lob bombs at an apolitical organisation and not expect consequences, was his feeling on it.
Why does the sports club have a CEO? You know what I mean? Like
the chief executive of the office.
What are we talking about? Of the office pickleball league? What the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah, so I just thought that was an interesting little bit of drama in Canberra. Yep.
Speaking
Our
of,
politicians are just playing touch footy with the gambling lobby.
as you do.
Nothing nefarious.
Speaking of stashes in Canberra, there was a story this week that the Big Four consulting firm and good guys, undisputed good guys in every scenario, Deloitte, was caught using AI in a report that it provided to the Australian government, which is to help crack down on welfare abuse.
Yes, using automatic machine processes to with anything to do with
welfare reform has always gone spectacularly well historically. So the report was commissioned for $290,000, and there was as posted in July on the Department of Employment and Workplace Relations website. A revised version was quietly published on Friday this week, so several months later, after a Sydney University researcher of health and welfare law, Chris Rudge, said he alerted media outlets that the report was, quote, full of fabricated references, unquote. So Deloitte reviewed the 237-page report and confirmed that, quote, some of the footnotes and references were incorrect because they had been hallucinated by an AI program.
They had been made up. So
they have organised a partial refund of that $290,000. I'm curious as to how partial that partial refund is. They basically, it was full of some hallucinated nonsense, but Deloitte insists that it did not change any of the outcomes or the conclusions of the report, even though it cited books that didn't exist and research papers that didn't exist and people that don't exist. And
interesting that it. Yeah, they say the conclusion it reached is still accurate, but all the evidence,
that sits underneath it,
backs up that claim
is nonsense.
Is not true.
Yeah. Deloitte, quote, misused AI and used it very inappropriately, misquoted a judge, used references that are non-existent. Our friend David Pocock told the ABC, I mean, the kinds of things that a first-year university student would be in deep trouble for. The matter has been resolved directly with the client, a spokesperson from Deloitte Australia told the Associated Press.
Yep. It's just, I think this is going to maybe result in there being, like, when a place is contracted, I think we're going to create, like, the use of AI in this sort of way of using tools. Like, I think in this instance, they're quoted as using Azure OpenAI.
That's what I saw,
which is part of, like, Microsoft's,
which is keyed in with OpenAI and ChatGPT.
But you can't, so you're using the same kind of maybe algorithmic, machine learned, trained large language models and things like that to create custom AI solutions.
Environments,
that's like on your Azure hosted thing. I know I work with Azure, with Azure tools, so that's how I'm sort of a bit familiar with this. But that I think this is going to create a precedent of maybe when you're contracting out to get, like, if you are the government looking
Deloitte,
to get Deloitte to do something, or like anyone getting anyone else to do something, freelancers or whatever, that, I don't know, maybe this will establish that there can be a bit of a premium to be like, I am purchasing this report on the expectation
with no
that
AI
a person
or something.
will do it.
Potentially.
That a person will have done it. Like, are we going to go that step
or
back?
I think
we're saying like, hey, this has pushed so much efficiency, and then people will be like, but no, I want to insist that this has been done by a person.
I think that's possible.
Handmade versus machine made in, like, toys or like things that you buy. You're like, oh, this handmade vase.
It's artisanal. An artisanal report.
So, like, I want a hand-done report,
so
done by a person.
I think it will encourage disclosures. So in the report update, they mentioned that AI had been used in the generation of the report, which is a disclosure they had not made previously. So I think it's probably going to encourage disclosure of the use of AI with regard to particular government projects and sensitive information and things like that. I think also it's just clearly Deloitte in this instance, or some fucking associate who was tasked with putting this together, has used AI in a way that's inappropriate for the purposes of this project, right? Like, there are AI suites which use AI in a much more intelligent way than this. This is why there are things like retrieval augmented generation, which draws from like a particular set of approved documents before creating, using those documents as context when the prompt goes into the model in order to generate something that's attributable and correct, right? There's smarter ways of doing this than just dumping stuff into an open ChatGPT environment and getting unsubstantiated 4chan dross in your report, right? Like I don't discount, I really do think AI, in particular discrete use cases in particular industries, is going to transform the way a lot of knowledge work is done. I really do believe that. But it needs to be done thoughtfully. It needs to be done with controls. This, to me, is an example of someone at the top of Deloitte has just said, mate, we've got to use AI. We just got to use AI and improve efficiencies and just get some efficiencies from AI so we can further utilize AI efficiencies. And it's like, that's not a thoughtful way to deploy this technology for this use case, right? Especially when it comes to sensitive government stuff. You need to be really careful. This report sat up on the government website for 4 months. Before someone, and it took an independent researcher going through it and manually verifying it to realize that it was horseshit. Now, thankfully, no one reads government reports, but if they did, this could be a real problem if it's helping to inform policy that people then later rely on if it's based on completely hallucinated evidence. We need to have structures in place at the government level to say, if you are deploying AI, it needs to be accountable, it needs to be auditable. We need to see where you got your information from, for these outputs. And currently structures like that, like there are platforms that are utilizing that and doing things in that way. I'm not aware of any mandate from government that says in order to give reports to us, you have to make sure you're following these best practices. I have seen in bids for government that there's a clause that's been added to some agreement saying you have to undertake that AI was not used in the generation of this submission or things like that.
Yeah.
So I think some departments are sort of catching wise to it a little bit, but there needs to be a broader whole of government approach to what the best practices are for these kind of reports which go to government, because there's a no error level, level of importance for these documents because they inform policy, which then gets rolled out to the public, right? Potentially.
Yeah.
So
no, 100%.
Yeah, they're massive misstep from Deloitte. What are these big four consulting? What do they do, man? It seems like they get paid so much fucking money to just do stuff that people could do for themselves, these departments. I really, for the life of me, I do not understand. PwC, Deloitte, they're all these big four consulting firms that provide, it was $1 billion in the last year worth of consulting services for the Albanese government. What value is the Australian population really getting for that? I don't know. It's not clear to me.
That it's quote unquote independent. It's not government looks into government. Government says government good.
Okay, but like, I don't know. Is there? I don't know. It just seems to me like
not if this is the quality of the work.
If this is the quality of the work, which is just hallucinated nonsense, then obviously it's not worthwhile having that independent voice, right?
No. Just a correction I just wanted to throw in there. We said it was David Pocock that was quoted on the first year university student would be in deep trouble. It was actually Senator Barbara Pocock who said that. It does say Senator Pocock, but no, a little bit of a mix up. She's a Greens senator.
Different Pocock.
Barbara Pocock.
My mistake. Yeah. See, and that's why I shouldn't be delivering reports to the government worth $290,000. You got to check it first. You got to check your work.
Worth more than $290,000. That was only a partial refund.
No. The amount of work was $290,000, and the Australian government has received a partial refund of that $290,000. We don't know.
Well, there we go. That's why I shouldn't do these reports.
Well, there you go. On that note, we have been, we are, and we always will be the incorrect Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com, or is it? Make sure you follow us on all the bullshit social medias that have, do, or ever will exist at our handle at Unnatural Show. That's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and mother flippin' TikTok. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at my handle at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Threads at tom.heath.
And you can follow Adam down to his new apartment, which will be, which I'm sure will be an absolute just catastrophic at this stage because he's just moved house. An absolute catastrophic. And you know what I'm trying to say. It's messy.
Catastrophe.
It's messy when you move houses. Thank you, Tom.
Oh, yeah. It's always crazy.
this is why you check your sources. Thanks for listening, guys. I love your faces. We will see you next week.